What is going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. We are, as Dr. Keith would say, season 2, episode 2 of our Beyond the Message podcast. It is going to be a good day. Glad you guys are listening. Heard some great feedback overall with the podcast, but today you are in for a treat. This is amazing. The people that are in this office with me today, we've got Ty. What's up, Ty?
What's up?
You guys know Ty, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. How many podcasts have you been on now?
I really don't know, but I'm telling you, we have a gift in here today, though.
We have a gift, the voice, the golden pipes. What other adjectives can we say?
Bro, I don't know, man. Dude, his voice is just magical. That's all I got to say.
It is.
The Lord bless them pipes for sure.
He did. Scott Self.
Hey,
what is up? Is this your first one? Second one. You need to be on more. Yeah. Ty's been on a couple times, but he's got like 2 minutes of total talk time because I think when you get
all I need.
No, you're really good. Actually, it's funny because
That's our wisdom.
Yeah, he does have that wisdom. You said something at the end of the service on Saturday night, and my wife was like, "That was really good." I'm like, "Well, let's see if he can unpack that."
We'll try to unpack that a little bit better.
So how's the new year going for you guys?
New Year's going good for me so far. You know, been digging my word each day. Been trying to get a little bit more active.
Good.
Trying to take care of my body. You know, trying to move a little bit, not get too stiff at 22. So, trying to do solid.
He has no idea, bro.
Right.
He says at 22, everyone that's listening just laughed out
Roll
loud.
their eyes.
They're like, "I'm trying to get my body going at 22." I can't. I mean, I haven't seen my shoelaces, unless I lift my foot up. So. How you doing so far this year?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just big changes.
No, just trying to be consistent. We talked about word of the year kind of thing came to me. Available was a word that came to me.
Nice.
I thought it was, so I'm just trying to do that. Be available to God, be available to my family, be available to my wife. So be available to my boss.
When you're in, like, I'm going to now be available and do the podcast.
Yeah.
So you're going to say yes to everything from now on.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
My brain is turning already. I'm excited. So
What about yours, Matt? What about yours? Did it say yours? Balance, isn't it? Or something like that?
No, posture. Posture is
that's
what I
what it
talked
was.
about.
Yeah.
And
That's what it was.
so far so good, I think. I the energy drinks, no, not doing that.
Good.
I'm cutting down my Weigel stops, which is great, saving me a lot of money. But and eating the junk stuff. That's, even though I still dabble, chocolate bar here and there, but I've eaten a lot less junk food.
Well, it's because the food pyramid flipped.
It did, yeah. Thank heavens. See, go RFK. We'll talk about that later. It's awesome.
RFK.
So we had you spoke of gifts. We had a gift this week at church, and I know Pastor Brent and Pastor Dan Seaborn are lifelong friends, and he's been there for him. But man, we've known Dan now 15 plus years, and we have a relationship with him as well, and he is so great and such an encourager, and he's so good when he leaves here. What's your first, I guess, initial reaction? We'll start with you, Scott. Your initial reaction on the week and how it went.
It was kind of unique in that, well, not super unique because it happens a lot. It seems like we will plan songs, not really knowing exactly, exactly what Dan will come in and say. We have an idea maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like the service was completely laid out on purpose. We did the song "Same God" at the beginning, and it talks. That song talks about the God of the Bible, that we look at these people like they're supernatural, but they're not any different than us. They just lean on a supernatural God, and that's kind of what his message pointed directly to. I won't go into all that right now, but just the idea that God works in our lives in this church just to lay out. We plan. We meet a lot.
We do.
We meet, and there's a purpose behind that. But it's like plan, pray, and get out of the way.
Yeah.
And God moves in and does His thing. It's very cool. So, and that happened with this service, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. I thought so too. It's God is the author of creativity, right?
Yeah.
Pastor Brent says that all the time, and he put something together behind the scenes that we didn't know.
Right.
And it's like, man, those moments are cool. God shows up. What'd you think there, Ty?
Yeah, I thought it was really unique, and I thought it was a great way to start the year to teach us how to react. Elisha, not a story that we talk about that often in church ever, and I thought it was really good just to see how we need to be able to react, just seeing how Elisha put that into action. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great week. Dan's the man. Me and Scott were talking about it a minute ago. He's animated. I love it. Like, he gets into it. That's the way we need to be about it, though. We need to be passionate, going around spreading the gospel like that with people in our workplace, wherever it's at. So really, I was encouraged by Dan.
Yeah, so it's funny because Jesus taught in parables and stories to make it relatable. And I thought Dan did a great job with, we're here in Sevierville or Pigeon Forge area. Yeah. They're at Buc-ee's. They're from Knoxville. Yeah. And, we can see, if you didn't watch the service, of course, we always say that, go back and watch it. But when you lay it out that way, you can kind of get a visual going, wow, actually, that's a long road from here to Buc-ee's, even though it's not long. Right. But if you're running or walking, or chariots or whatever, that'll take a little bit of time. And I thought that was pretty creative.
That is certainly one good takeaway. If you get to go to Israel, it's when you read the Bible, you can kind of understand where everything lies. And that was the same reason he used those analogies, which it just brings it more to life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot smaller, compact than you think.
For sure.
When you're like, well, Jesus did a lot of walking. He did.
Yeah.
But he, and he would go in these areas. It is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, all right, he unpacked a lot of stuff. Key takeaway or something that jumped out at you that you're like, man, I need to do this better. I need to relate this to my life, or just a point that you could think maybe the listeners, should kind of anchor to.
Yeah, this is what I would say. Elisha, he was his land. They were in famine. Everybody is wanting to come take over their land. They're trying to hit a man while he's down. That which a lot of us can feel that way at most times. And I love this because Elisha reacted in the perfect way. He said, what the Lord says. How do we react? Do we immediately go to anger? Do we go to blaming others? Mm-hmm. Dan talked about, how he took out a little bit of anger on his son and lashed out here and there. And his son came to his dad when they were on airport or wherever it was. And he said, Dad, you're not going to like this, but I need to unpack this with you. Mm. And I feel like, as a son myself, I've seen even me get, short-tempered with my parents, when when I was in school, I was stressed out, whatever it was. My parents would be like, do this. I'm like, stuff like that. And we all get that way, of course, as parents, I'm not a parent, but as parents, they do the same thing. I imagine my dad, he'd be like, go grab a screwdriver, and I bring back a pair of pliers, something like that. And he'd lose his mind. But I love the way Elijah reacted. And that's something that we're not taught. We see how, our parents react. We see how the people around us react. But I think that we see Elisha react in the right way, immediately going to God. This is what the Lord says. Obviously Elisha was a prophet, and we're not prophets, but we can sit back and we can be like, man, God, just like Dan did. I'm praying when he had that little thing at Thanksgiving. I love that. Like, I'm just taking a step back. I'm praying. I'm not going to feed into the situation because I'm not feeding anything fruitful into this. So I really enjoyed it.
You literally just convicted me, and I hate it, but I love it. But you said something. So last night, no lie, we were watching TV. We watched the movie King of Kings, that animated movie with my kids, and we hadn't seen it yet. And so we were sitting there watching it. Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son, and they don't always get along, but that's, brother and sister. We're working on that. But my daughter did something that was annoying, and I reacted in a way, and then she did the same exact thing. Well, then my son reacted in a way, and I said, buddy, you cannot do that. And he goes, Dad, you literally just did the exact same thing 2 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, but, and then I stopped, and I'm like, and Nikki's staring at me like, well, how are you getting out of this one, Pastor Matt? And I'm like, wow, you're right.
I learned it by watching you.
Yeah, exactly. So you said it. Sometimes we do learn our reactions by our parents, and that's no excuse. We need to be better, and then they can be better as well. And you're a dad, and
I know.
You're learning all this, right?
That's why I'm laughing. I see that daily.
Yeah.
I'm like, careful what you say because you might hear it right back to you.
Oh man,
And-
it's crazy.
Yeah, and they're definitely a mirror of you, of your actions, and what you do and what you don't do, and you'll see it. If you don't want to see it, look out.
Yeah, that's right. So your take on the message overall, I guess, like a point or
His points. The first thing we do coming out of the gate is when things go wrong, we panic.
yeah,
And that's human nature. But the idea that Elisha, the first thing he did was lean on God. Not Elisha. Dig me out of here.
which part? Yeah, I think it's Elisha.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It is Elisha. I think you're right on. Yeah,
Elijah leaned on that arm.
Yeah, when he faced beheading, the first thing he did was he looked to God. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't. He knew that was the place to go.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. And I think you nailed it with, we panic. He talked about that. He talked about we attack the ones that we love.
yes,
Because why? We always say they're always going to be there for us. Do we run and hide, or do we deaden it with addiction?
right.
That was a good point.
That was a great point.
And I think, man, I look in there and going, I think I've done all that.
Oh, me too.
I've done all that.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And that's such a bummer. But you're right. Elisha's got a little bit of what would be the word? He's got a little dog in him, is what they would say, or some
Yeah,
swag.
He's got some confidence.
He does.
He's got that
'Cause
moxie. He's got
He's like,
got it, bro.
listen, hear the word from the Lord. And he's like, not only is the flour going to be a shekel, and the sayas of barley is going to be a shekel.
Right.
He's like, but you ain't going to have any. I love that about
And
him.
on business,
He
baby.
it was so good.
Right.
It was so good. So yeah, I think he was very, very confident in the Lord. That is something that we need to understand. God still does miracles today.
Yes.
And sometimes we can get lost in reading the Bible that we're like, I think, Scott, you kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
That was the God of then. Listen, it's the same God here
absolutely.
today.
Absolutely.
So anything you can apply to your life personally about this message?
Don't underestimate God because He sees and thinks of things that we don't understand. Dan kept calling it Buc-ee's, but they finally got to have all that food out of that famine and things like that. But the thing cool about it was before they got that food, God made all those sounds of armies to defend it for them. So maybe you're struggling in life right now, but maybe God's making sound or making waves in another aspect. Because we all, like Dan said, we'll fail at something this year, or something's going to come at us. But we can't sit back and just take it. We need to understand that God is with us. We need to go to God with that, and we need to act on God being our confidant, like Elisha did. Just don't underestimate. That'd be, God's will prevail in your life, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got something there, Scott?
Yeah, I was thinking about talking about how God orchestrates things. Listen to these podcasts. You guys and Keith did a podcast. You all preached one week, and the idea that what you talked about stacked on what he talked about, stacked on what Keith talked about, and that's the exact same idea that God will provide. God is the orchestrator behind the scenes. None of that was talked about before. It's things you don't know what God's doing until you just walk forward. You can only see as far as the headlights point, and you just got to keep going and understand that what He's given you to say or do, He will bring to life.
Yeah.
Just like the idea that they were in a famine, and He said that one seah of flour would be a shekel tomorrow. That was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane. Nobody could ever have imagined that. And there was a thing we put in the message this week, or in the service this week, about a guy in our church offering to put a roof on a lady's house. And we showed a video. If you haven't seen it again, go back and watch that because it's very powerful. Young guy, newly married, brand new baby, walked up to a lady's house that's his neighbor knocks on the door and said, "Hey, I'm working with my church, and I noticed that you have some roof damage, and we want to put a roof on your house." And she was like, what? She was just shocked.
Yeah.
And she said, "Honey," she literally said these words, "Honey, me and my sister have been praying about that."
Yeah.
So the night before she goes to bed, praying, we need a new roof. And the next day, she could never, ever have imagined that a young guy, 20-something-year-old guy would walk up, knock on her door and say, "Hey, I want to give you a roof."
Yeah.
I mean, that is nothing but God. Not that our church is supernatural at all.
No.
Because we're leaning on a supernatural God.
Yeah.
And she was too. And he showed up for them. So
That gives me goosebumps.
No, it
was.
Pastor Dan says that God never misses a detail. God won't fail you. God still does miracles today. You telling me that those sisters didn't immediately go, what? Like that strengthened their faith.
Yeah,
it really did.
sure.
That was a beautiful thing. And Andy Cable, man, he is awesome.
Yeah.
State champion wrestler. The whole family, Max and Anna and Dwayne, they're awesome. So, I think for me, and this is interesting because it was a small part. They're like, they were big in the story, but they were also seemed like B characters in the story. But the lepers, Pastor Brent did a series called "You Can't Stay Here" a couple years ago. I say a couple, but maybe 3 or 4 now. I don't know. And he talked about the lepers at the gate, and they were like, "Well, we can't go in because there's a famine and we're going to die. We can't stay here or we're going to die. So we just can't stay here. We got to move, right? We got to do something." And they went to Buc-ee's, all right? If you'll get the joke. Yeah. But they went to that camp, and like you said, God already made the noises and the sounds, and the army fled. And they had this wide open, buffet and gold and everything. Bounty. It was great. And this part really shook me when they started to take and plunder everything. You got people that had nothing, that had been begging for years, and they took gold and silver, riches beyond, probably more than they've ever even seen in their life. And they buried it because then they can come back to it and they can be wealthy and they can live like those, right? But it's when one of them turned and said, "Man, this isn't right."
This isn't right, yeah.
And even in, they prayed for, I'm sure, "God, give us a way to be healthy and clean, and give us something so we can live a life of purpose," or whatever that is. And it doesn't say God took away their leprosy. Right. It doesn't. But even in that time, they had enough maybe trust in God that they were like, "This isn't right, man." Mm-hmm. And they gave all that up. That, I don't know, that shook me. And it made me think, like, God's not about idols. He doesn't care about that. Like, he doesn't care about all the fancy material stuff. Now, listen, don't get twisted that you can't have a nice house and a boat and a car. You can have that. There's nothing wrong with that. But man, do we idolize it? Do we put that such an importance in our life that, that we overshadow God with that? But these lepers literally were like, yeah, even though this would change our lives forever, maybe this isn't right. And it doesn't say what happens after that. They could, hopefully they don't go back and are outside the gate begging, but if they are, maybe God's that provision that they need in their life. Yeah. So that shook me. I need to keep that in the forefront.
Good. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Gave me conviction too.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That was a great, just humility. I loved it.
Yeah. Give me your car.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. All right. Well, all right. So we're going to take too much more time, but one last point. Anything that you guys want to add? One last nugget of wisdom. I'm throwing Scott. He's like, "Dang, I think I gave all my nuggets." But anything that you want to kind of...
Speaking of Buc-ee's.
Speaking of Buc-ee's Nuggets,
Beaver
right?
Nuggets.
Beaver Nuggets. It's funny because he went in there and he was like, and everything was open to them, and then I turned to my wife and said, "Fresh biscuit on the board." I was like, that's funny. They're eating everything they want. But what's a final little note for all the people listening? Something maybe, this is turning into a discipleship podcast. Mm-hmm. It's beyond the message. What can we do in order to kind of self-assess and apply things to our life?
Dan asked questions here and there. I wish I wrote down the questions, but first question I would ask myself, there's one question I wrote down just to me, and that was, how do we react to issues? How do I react to issues? So this week, when something comes at you that is stressful, whether that is, eviction notice, whatever, there's a lot of things happening. How do you react to those issues? Do you immediately go to blaming, or do you immediately go to God? That's the question I would ask myself this week, coming out this week, because like I said, it was all about reaction. And I think that was a great way to start the year because, we all, there's the New Year's resolutions. Some people don't set them, but some people do. And a lot of them fail so frequently. I did a stats last week with the youth. I think it was like 23% quit in the first week, 60% quit by the first month, and then 80% quit by February. You got to start small. You're not going to be perfect with your New Year's resolutions as well. But how do you react? Do you give yourself grace too? Mm-hmm. Give yourself some grace to start off the new year as well. But no, it's time to step up, react the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got yours now?
I just went back and when he started talking about what Dan had said, the questions, and he didn't even really get to these necessarily. The questions on the worship guide. But number 4, stand strong, firm, and faithful, because God clearly can solve problems in ways we do not see or comprehend.
Oh, love that.
So,
yeah, that's very
good.
That's very good. I think I can leave here with an example of Elisha, and even though facing death, facing all this persecution, we look around our world today. And we're not going political right now, but I'm from Minnesota. My niece was, and thank heaven she got to go home this morning, but she was Minnesota National Guard, and she was down there with the turmoil and the unrest. That's not new to the world, but it's just so easily seen. It's all over the world that even in the face of maybe doubt or there's no way out, God makes a way where there seems to be no way. And God had Elisha's back. He has our back. It might not be the way we think, but Elisha was bold. He was bold enough to stare down possible death and say, listen, this is what the Lord, Lord my God says. And I think maybe in this year, of course, I got my word, and we've got, momentum coming this week in church. Right. Hoodie week, do not miss it. I wonder if I can be bolder with grace, and love, but I can be bolder in my faith. And we need to teach the teens that. We need to teach, hey, listen, anyone that's listening, in your work, in your family, dads, are we praying with our kids? Mm-hmm. Are we praying with our wives? Are we bold in our faith at work? Or are we kind of back and forth? Mm-hmm. Are we sometimes afraid? We can't be afraid anymore. In a world that we are today, we have to get off the fence. Yeah. The Bible goes plenty examples with, Elijah and the prophets of Baal, where he's like, he's your God or not. Mm-hmm. Like you get to choose. Or, in Revelation, hot or cold, you got to pick a side. Yeah. And the more we're looking at the world that we live in, I think it's coming down to, it's time. We got to pick a side. Yeah. And good. Pick a side, run with it, be bold in it. So
good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Driving the bus.
Yeah, hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Pastor Mike's off with Marcella. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Marcella. They're having a good date day. Yeah. So Pastor Brent is gearing up for his message this week as we kick off Momentum, Vision in Motion. Good. Hoodie week.
Yeah, big week.
Big week, massive worship.
A lot of people on stage worshiping.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. This is a week you do not want to miss as we kind of set the ground running for 2026, guys. Appreciate y'all. Anyone listening, we're here for you. Email us. I'll even throw us out there. Ty at pathwayschurch.com, Scott at pathwayschurch.com, Matt at pathwayschurch.com. Unless you hate this, then it's Mike at pathwayschurch. Or Keith. Yeah, exactly. But guys, we're here for you. We're not just a church that you guys are a number. You mean something. We love you. Thanks that you guys continue to listen to this. So cheers. Let's have a good 26, y'all.
Fresh biscuit.
Peace out.
Bye.